For centuries, Egypt's greatest port was dismissed as myth. Then, divers uncovered its ruins 6 kilometers offshore, sealed by a catastrophe no one expected. Inside the sunken city, archaeologists found baskets of ancient fruit, so untouched that their DNA preserved a secret frozen in time. How could organic life survive 2,000 years underwater? And what terrifying fate did this snapshot reveal? The answer does not just rewrite history, it exposes the horrifying moment the Earth itself turned traitor. In the late 1990s, Frank Goddio and his team set out to solve a mystery that had baffled historians for centuries. Ancient texts spoke of Thonis Heracleion, a city of canals and temples, yet no trace had ever been found on land. Goddio's search began not on the desert sands, but far offshore, where the Nile once met the sea. Using sonar grids, his crew mapped the seabed in Abukir Bay, scanning for patterns that nature could not explain. In 2000, their instruments picked up the unmistakable outline of stone blocks, buried beneath 10 meters of silt and water, 6 kilometers from the modern coastline. Divers descended into the murky green depths, guided by the sonar's coordinates. The first discoveries were monumental: massive red granite statues, toppled columns, and fragments of temple walls. Each artifact was a silent witness to a city lost for more than 1,000 years. The divers uncovered stelae inscribed with the names Thonis and Heracleion, proof that the city of legend had always been real, just hidden beneath the waves. The submerged ruins stretched across a vast area, covering more than 100 square kilometers of the ancient delta. What emerged from the mud was not just a scattering of relics, but the clear, sprawling footprint of a port city. For the first time, the myth of Thonis Heracleion stood revealed as real, opening up new questions about what secrets might still lie sealed beneath the silt. In the heart of the submerged ruins, divers traced the outline of an ancient tumulus, an earthen mound that once marked a place of honor for the dead. When the sediment was carefully brushed away, they uncovered something no one expected: wicker baskets, perfectly intact, their weave still tight after more than 2,000 years. Inside, the baskets cradled doom nuts and grape seeds, their shapes undistorted, their surfaces untouched by decay. The fruit looked as if it had been gathered yesterday, not centuries ago. This kind of preservation is almost impossible in the Nile Delta, where organic matter usually disappears within a generation. Here, the rules of time seem suspended. The baskets had been buried in a sudden catastrophe, sealed under a thick layer of clay and temple debris. Without oxygen, the usual agents of rot and bacteria never arrived. The result is a botanical time capsule, a frozen record of the city's final day. From an archaeobotanist's perspective, these offerings are more than relics. They are evidence of a moment when daily life was halted in an instant. The doom nuts and grape seeds reveal what people ate, traded, and valued, but their pristine condition tells a darker story. The earth did not give warning. It swallowed the funerary room whole, trapping the offerings in a clay sarcophagus. What remains is a snapshot of life, preserved at the very edge of disaster, waiting in the darkness for centuries to be found. Bronze helmets and Greek swords lie scattered in the silt, just meters from statues of Egyptian gods. In Thonis Heracleion, these artifacts are not out of place. They are clues to a city where two worlds collided and blended. Greek mercenaries once guarded the mouth of the Nile, hired by Egyptian pharaohs to defend the richest port in the ancient world. Their weapons now rest beside the sacred precincts of Amun, the god who watched over Egypt's kings. The city's temples tell the same story. Alongside the massive stone columns of Amun's sanctuary, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a Greek tholos, a circular shrine dedicated to Aphrodite. Merchants from across the Aegean brought offerings to both gods, leaving behind imported ceramics and bronze figurines. These sanctuaries stood side by side, their rituals echoing through the same streets. Their priests and priestesses crossed paths in the crowded markets. The tumulus unearthed near the canal is not just a burial mound. Its design follows Greek traditions. yet it was built within the sacred boundaries of an Egyptian temple complex. This was more than tolerance. It was a negotiated coexistence. The city's stelae, inscribed in both Greek and Egyptian scripts, record trade deals and religious dedications, proof that this was a community where identities overlapped. Long before Alexander's armies reached Egypt, Thonis Heracleion had already become a cultural mosaic. Here, Greek traders and Egyptian priests shared feasts, buried their dead in neighboring plots, and defended a city whose walls belonged to both. The city's fate would one day unite them in tragedy, but in life, it was a rare experiment in shared civilization. A geophysicist describes the city's final moments as a betrayal by the earth itself. Thonis Heracleion was built on layers of waterlogged clay and silt, the softest ground in the delta. When a powerful earthquake struck in the mid-2nd century BC, the shaking set off a chain reaction beneath the surface. The saturated soil lost its strength, transforming from solid ground into a thick, pulsing liquid. This was liquefaction. Buildings, statues, and entire temples did not collapse sideways. They simply dropped straight down, swallowed whole by the mud. 10-ton statues that once stood above the city now sit upright, entombed beneath meters of sediment. The process left no time for escape or rescue. In a matter of minutes, the city's foundations liquefied, erasing streets and plazas in silence. The harbour, once crowded with ships and merchants, became a graveyard of stone and timber, everything preserved in the position it held at the instant the earth gave way. Beneath the silt of Thonis Heracleion, the harbour is crowded with the remains of more than 60 ancient ships and over 700 anchors, the largest shipwreck graveyard ever found from the ancient world. Maritime archaeologists describe how entire vessels were trapped where they moored, pinned by stones that crashed down from collapsing temples. Some ships still sit upright, their timbers preserved by the same mud that sealed the city's fate. The density of anchors and hulls tells a story of chaos, crews unable to escape, their routes out cut off in an instant. Among these wrecks lies a vessel that changed the history of naval archaeology, a flat-bottomed cargo ship built from sewn acacia planks with lashed ribs. For centuries, scholars doubted Herodotus's account of such a boat, called a barris. Shipwreck 17 matches his description line by line, from its stitched hull to its curved ends and central cargo hatch. The discovery does not just validate a forgotten text, it proves that the harbour froze in a single moment, capturing a way of life and a kind of ship thought to be legend until now. Modern cities across the Nile Delta are built on ground no more unstable than the clay and silt that once supported Thonis Heracleion. Satellite data and geological surveys show that Alexandria, Rosetta, and other coastal hubs rest on waterlogged sediments, prone to the same kind of sudden collapse that doomed the ancient port. Sea levels in the region have risen by more than 20 centimeters over the past century, and the weight of high-rise construction presses down on Earth that was never meant to hold such loads. Urban risk analysts warn that this combination of heavier buildings, aggressive groundwater pumping, and climate-driven sea encroachment is recreating the very conditions that triggered disaster 2,000 years ago. The ground beneath these modern cities is quietly shifting, and the lessons from Thonis Heracleion are more than archaeological curiosity, they are a warning. In the Delta, history is not buried, it is waiting just below the surface, reminding us how quickly the line between land and water can vanish. Thonis Heracleion's fate isn't ancient history, it's a warning. Today, the Nile Delta is sinking as sea levels rise and cities grow heavier. The ground that swallowed a civilization could do so again. In the Delta, the next catastrophe isn't a myth, it's a prediction. What would you save?